have I overdone it on the green? Hello there, this is Greg Johnson making, and today I'm making a Borg cube. If you like seeing various gauges of mesh glued together, then have I got a video for you. I think an iconic antagonist should be the antithesis of your protagonist. Doctor Who fights the Daleks, Batman fights the Joker of course, and the sleek, high-tech, curvaceous, white Starship Enterprise does battle with this bad boy. It's everything they're not. I remember seeing the Borg cube on TV for the first time, probably in my early to mid-teens, and thinking, that's iconic. Not seen that before. And I've always thought you could make one out of sprues. So I decided to test that hypothesis by making one out of sprues. A sproob. The birth of a new swear word? I don't have many naturally occurring sprues in my life, so huge thanks to my two patrons, both called Jack. One of them is the main Jack, one of them is secondary Jack, I'll never reveal which. Daryl McLean's friend of a friend who sent me a jiffy bag full, and Mark from the Grand Strategium gaming shop. The Grand Strategium! Who gave me a crazy big box full. So I've got far more than I could ever possibly need. I thought I might do a bit of a production line and make 3 or 4 of these at once, but I didn't, because yeah, it's 4 times as much work. Find out where I've been and what videos I've been making at the end of this video, but before that, let's see what bits this cube might be made of. A video which will launch shortly from this aperture. Do I use this bit? It's mostly gauges of mesh, various slots and grids and meshy things. I've been an absolute scavenger for those things over the past few months. So I've got some chicken wire, some fly mesh or screen door mesh, those doors that let the air in and keep the flies out. The gold stuff is, I think, sculptor's mesh that I've had for years. A couple of bird feeders, that's a lovely gauge of mesh, 5 to 7 mil, something like that. And an old mucky bird cage that was in the alleyway around the back of our house. The always fruitful alleyway around the back of our house. My ridiculously massive collection of sprues and a cubic water light. So we're basically cladding that cubic light, that cubic light with meshes of all kinds. So I'm going to raise it up because I want the light to be reasonably in the centre of this cube, and obviously the cube is going to be bigger, don't want all the light to be at the bottom. So just snipped the edge so that the wire is coming out of the bottom, snipped its little feet off, and I'm making a booster, a foundation from, Americans call these Legos, I call them Lego. It's so confusing. So I'm just taping that Lego up with some black cloth tape, hot glue all the way around, stick it on there, and it's got a nice booster, bit of hot glue to hold the wire in place as well. Then didn't need to do this because backs and bottoms don't matter, but I bought a load of flat black, you know, 1 layer thick Legos, so I'm just giving it nice black feet on the bottom. Then this is poster board. Put the plastic poster on the inside as a hinge, cut a strip, score down where you want the corners to be. Then all I had to do was cut a hole for where the wire and the USB lead come out. And for now, I'm just holding that on with strong carpet tape. And then this is heavy duty, I figured black gaffer tape. It's black with a slight grid pattern, and black and grids, so it's very much the Borg aesthetic. That's their design choice very often. Now let's cover the cube, starting off with fly mesh. So we're starting off with the smallest gauge mesh that there is. A lot of accidental Sean Connery at the moment. So that when you look deep into the cube, you know, the smallest detail seems furthest away. It's like fake perspective or something. So that's now wrapped in layer 1. Mesh the first, that's just held on with thin double-sided tape. Because this is the core, we're not going to be staring at this in any great detail. Mesh the second is bird feeder. As I said, if I had to choose, which I don't, then bird feeder I think is one of my favourite gauges of mesh. 5 mil, 7 mil, enough to hold a peanut, but wouldn't stop you from getting that nut out. Just ask any bird, they'll tell you. Little dots of super glue, you're just finding contact points, which is basically the whole of this project, is finding where does the wire touch the layer underneath and putting a blob of glue there. Then here I've done some little panels of, this is fly mesh repair tape. So if you have a rip in your screen door, you buy this repair tape, which is see-through tape with black cloth mesh on. And I've just cut it into various L-shaped panels. Then 2 thank yous. One to the YouTube commenter who told me to get some mini wire cutters when I couldn't cut that wire with my pliers back in the day. What episode was that? I can't remember. And a slightly bigger thank you to my wife for buying me them for Christmas, because I knew I would. There's a bit of tape stuck to my sleeve. Bloopers. Oh, that no, live that down. Oh, there we go. I can hear the end of it. I'm leaving that in. I'm leaving that in. I put some sugar in my coffee, so I'm jazzed. Then stick all that together with super glue, put the lid on. Is it strong enough to toss like that? No, because it actually fell apart, but I cut that out. Chicken wire, wire for chickens. Various avian meshes. Bird feeders, chicken wire. Sculptor's mesh, if you were to sculpt a bird with it. So these tiny cable ties, sometimes used just to hold things in place and then glued it and then snipped them off. But as this is the very innermost core, you're not going to see these. So they are in there, if you look. And, okay, the spruification. This is the dawning of the age of sprues. Let's start to stick some sprues on. This gets increasingly not difficult, but fiddly and precise, because the more layers you add, there are fewer points where they touch. So really it's just putting a layer of sprues down, sort of sliding them around until they sit, and then just going through with your super glue with a long thin nozzle on it, and just putting a dab of glue wherever it touches the layer underneath. So there I've just cut out at least a day's worth of sticking sprues on, because it's just sprues upon sprues upon sprues. And then these are other little details. These I think are called gaskets. They're meshes, plastic mesh that you put in the bottom of a pot plant to stop all the soil falling out the bottom. You can cut them with scissors, nice and easy. Black, which is always a plus. More leftover bits of bird cage and some sculptor's mesh. Sculptor's mesh is the most fiddly to work with because it's not laminated in plastic like a bird feeder is. Once you cut it into small bits, it starts falling apart. So I had to glue it all the way around the outside to hold it in a grid pattern. But you need... It's raining perm clips. Hallelujah. Apparently you can buy these in black, but I can't find them. This is a bookmark I found in a charity shop. This is my finest grid. I wish I'd saved this. I just wish that I'd saved this and used it on the outside, because it's a bit buried and it is my finest detail. Very fine detail. Now we'll just have a brief intermission of 6 days while I waited for my superglue activator to arrive. Oh, it'll be there by 8 PM today. Actually, no, it'll be there in 5 days. Sorry, we were just kidding, but thanks for waiting in. I did try. I tried to recommence my labours using baking soda as my setting agent, but it was too crusty. It was making big gobs of sugary crust. This cube is meant to be 3 kilometres long down either side, so these details are already a bit chunky. This whole thing is an experiment of would a Borg cube made of sprues look good? It's somewhere between the original shooting miniature from the TV show and the toy. So, you know, we're falling somewhere between those two things. I know that this detail is not fine enough for a 3 kilometre cube. I know that. And we're back on with it. So let's stick on some more sprues. Why not? There's one layer less of sprues on top because it wasn't quite square, so the sides are thicker than the top. These sprues are in order. I started with ones that are flat backed, you know, they have like a trapezium cross section, and then this outer shell are the round ones, so they look more like pipes or corridors, or however the Borg get around their cube. Slides. Are they slides? As long as the gravity is switched on, you could use slides to get around. You really could. As mentioned earlier, some cable ties are sacrificial cable ties, and this is one of them. Cable tie it in place just long enough to glue and then snip it off. Snip it off, snip it off. This is a bit of... That was Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. This is a bit of aquarium gravel tray. Can't seem to get those anymore. And this is little offcuts and bits again of the bird cage, which is just some nice straight wire, using my lovely wire snips again. Thank you commenter, thank you wife. Bit more aquarium gravel tray thing, and then this is florist's wire. It's covered in plastic so it takes paint, and it's straight. It comes in a long pouch bag, I think is the word. There's a long bag. It comes in a long thin bag. And it's lovely straight wire, and I just wanted more fine detail. And finally, another bird feeder. I had to, didn't want to use both, but then I did use both. Cool story, bro. So you can cut them with scissors, just flatten it out and cut out rectangles and L shapes and super glue them to the outside of the cube. Very rinse and repeat, isn't it, this build? Not a lot of varied chapters or themes. But for me, the perfect Lamrogue and Josh will contain... It's prime time. having prime timed, I now realise I want to add a little bit more fine detail, so I've trashed my sieve and I'm going to stick on some little panels of this and then go for a secondary prime time. Now there's a new time, a new phase, a new era. Between prime time and paint time falls Spritz Time. So some little spritzes, some little hits of grey furniture paint, some gold, some gloss black, just to put shiny texture on the matte black primer, some grey primer, and some chrome sprinkles as well. Just slightly hold the button down and you get little freckles. My cat's moving backwards, so if anyone can help with that medical condition, we'd really appreciate it. We're very concerned. Oh, he's all right now. So yeah, there you can see, just from various angles, just little bits of silver, little bits of grey, like a speedy version of a toothbrush pass. You just barely hold down the button on the rattle can and it just freckles it all over. So there's gold, silver, grey, shiny black, matte grey, all coming in from different angles. Let's have a vloggy update. I was dismantling this old keyboard for reasons, a whole other project, a whole other prop. My reasons will remain my own. And inside I discovered this stuff, which is very fortuitous. I mean, if you're thinking that your Borg cube lacks diagonals and fine detail, and then you happen to find this, that's someone smiling down on you. The Borg Queen, maybe? May the Borg Queen bless and keep you. So, I am now wrapping this thing in a sheath, a skin, that's better, of circuit boardy details. It's a bit sellotapey, but you won't really see it, but hopefully some of those lines will show through from the outside and add some much needed detail. Lovely vloggy update. Someone said they liked the mirror technique that I use, so I wanted to do more of those because I got a compliment and I like them. Okay, so here playing at 1500% speed is 12 minutes worth of drawing gold dots. I found some lovely photos of the filming miniature from the Borg movie, First Contact, and it's just covered in little gold specular highlights. It just needs to look like it's covered in stuff. So I'm just covering all the little round nodes and the backs of the square panels that have the numbers on that you get all over various sprues, and then liquid chrome silver pen for some silver highlights. Did a bit of bronze as well, and then after umming and ahhing a little bit, decided the silver was too silver, so this is Agrak's Earthshade wash. Started with Nuln oil, but I thought, no, I want this a bit warmer, so I went with a brown wash. And finally, before I seal it all up forever, realised there was some space between the edge of the base and the cube for another layer of gridding, so I did a secondary shell of birdcage. And now, with a dramatical reading of the novelisation of Star Trek First Contact by J.M. Dillard, let's see the finished thing. Again. Aboard the Defiant's bridge, Lieutenant Commander Worf sat staring at the viewscreen's display of the monstrous and ungainly Borg cube, surrounded by a dozen tiny starships. A leaden, lumbering beast attacked by a pale, shining swarm of insects. Insects that packed an impressive sting. Dazzling bursts of phaser fire lit up the surrounding blackness, leaving scorch marks on the Borg cube's dully gleaming pewter hull. The Defiant was among the ranks of those ships that had left their mark. The hull of the massive Borg vessel was as pockmarked as an unsheltered moon. The cube, an unappealing conglomeration of external metal tubing, wiring, and conduits that looked as if its builders had decided to simply turn the vessel inside out, exposing its bowels to space, shuddered briefly at the blast, then immediately struck back. A burst of fire-bright torpedoes, 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, slipped from it and sailed with unerring aim toward the flagship, which had had the honour of first opening fire on the cube. Should we go fun mode? Okay, thank you very much for watching. Very happy with how this turned out. Hopefully it's about to go to a new home. Someone said they'd buy it if I made one, but I haven't shown them it yet. So stay tuned and find out. Where have I been? If you've noticed me not making very many craft videos over the last couple of months, I made a Christmas music video that's on my channel, but I also made a making of video about that video. So it covers green screen and costume and mask making and music recording, even has some outtakes, some bloopers, my first blooper reel. But I've made it Patreon exclusive, because I don't know if it's too much of a peep behind the curtain. I'm worried that I'm the, you know, the disappointing wizard who says, "Don't look at that man over there," or whatever the wizard says. I don't want to spoil the illusion, but I also really like sharing how I make stuff. So I decided that's Patreon exclusive. Maybe more of my videos in future will become Patreon exclusive as my creative process changes slightly over the coming year. Maybe. That was just a really specific hint. So if a making of video about a Christmas music video is the kind of video that you'd like to watch then join my Patreon. Even free patrons, which aren't my favourite ones, I like the other ones more, get to see that video too. So do sign up to my Patreon if you would like to, either free or not. If you're in a position to help the channel grow and keep making more videos, then yeah, sign up to Patreon. There's lots more on the way. Thanks very much for watching, lots of love from me, and I'll see you next time. That's what the bottom looks like.
Like, yeah, we see Laura Palmer's face in that orb. Yeah. I don't know if I interpret that as being, like, literally Laura, or even the spirit of Laura, so much as just we connect with Laura because we know the show. So yeah. It's more that this orb represents the good that is meant to combat the dark.
Yeah, we're like the orb with Bob, isn't it? Because that isn't actually Bob.
It isn't literally Bob, yeah.
That's what it is.
It's just that's how we know them because we watched the TV show Twin Peaks, which is why it's being represented in this thing. Again, the good versus evil. So I guess I didn't really think of that frog monster as being. I interpreted it as being something evil, and this is like the start of, like when we talk about like the.
Turn the camera off.